Okay, the baseball window opened on the clock, and now the great debate: risk versus reward. Good headline you built there, John. Sasaki can now sign with anybody. As of this hour on a Thursday, he's not yet announced. It's down to three. It's down to the Padres, the Dodgers, and maybe the Toronto Blue Jays. In the MLB notebook, here's the debate question, John. Item one, Dodgers versus Padres. How is Roki Sasaki, the 23-year-old Japanese pitching sensation, going to make the decision? What's the most important thing? Is it the history, the legacy of the franchise he chooses? Is it how many times they've been to the World Series? Is it their ability to develop pitchers, their history? Is it their ability to help pitchers who get hurt come back through rehab? Is it a history of their Oriental relationships with other pitchers or other players they've signed from Japan, Korea, Taiwan, the Pacific Rim? Is it strictly about marketplace and endorsement opportunities, bigger market? Is it about past tradition of Japanese players and friends he may have on the current rosters? And is he willing to spend the next 6 years of his career? Because once he inks that contract, he's locked for 6 years before he can become a free agent. John, what do you think is the most important thing as it relates to Sasaki?
As far as the Padres getting him, I think you got to hope that he doesn't want the Dodgers, because we're the second team in the pecking order. That's how I see this, is that, yeah, there's great relationships that AJ has in Japan, the boots on the ground, all that. They've been wooing him for years. But in the end, it has to be a question if he wants to be the third Japanese player in the pecking order with the Dodgers, or if he wants to be a star in a market that's a little bit less media focused, that might give him a more comfortable landing spot in America.
Fascinating. Now, I beg the question here. This is win-win. Nobody's going to lose in this debate. This sounds, I know, would you move over? Because I'm coming to left field with this opinion.
Okay.
This is win-win. If the Dodgers get him, it's a win for them and it's unbelievable rotation. If the Padres get him, it's a win for them because he plugs in immediately and has a long career to begin with in San Diego. Nobody loses, though. If the Dodgers don't get him, does not matter because the Dodgers have this massive payroll and they have so many really good pitchers, some coming off rehab, but they have a history of developing guys and a history of helping rehab guys get back on the mound. If the Padres lose him, it's less of a hit because they still have Luis Ariz and they still have Dylan Cease that they could use as a trade chip to go get other pitchers, which also helps the Padres with their money in the basket problem they have. So do you think it's win-win regardless of the decision, or do you think somebody loses badly if they don't get Sasaki?
Well, I think the Padres are putting all their eggs in the basket here for Sasaki. I mean, yeah, the Dodgers have got a roster that they're not even going to fit them all in the dugout. There's going to be so many quality players. But for the Padres, if they don't get Sasaki, they're still over the line on the payroll. And if they have to unload Cease and Ariz, it's trouble. The Padres need to have addition, not subtraction.
True, but if they don't get them and they have to move one of those big contracts, Ariz 14 mil, Cease almost 14 mil, they're going to get young pitching to fill out that rotation. Of course, they are creating a hole in a different part of the lineup if they have to move Ariz. I don't think it's a lose-lose. It'd be a great chip if they got him. Fascinating.
Well, it's a disappointment for sure, but you don't know what kind of pitching you're going to get back, in a deal. It might still be like a low A player, and then suddenly we're depending on Johnny Brito to have the caboose of the rotation.
Okay, that's where we are. We're waiting for a decision. Other baseball notebook items. New bidder, Alex Bregman, Houston third baseman who is leaving. Alex Bregman, however, through his agent, indicated this morning he's not taking a short-term contract. He's not going to do a contract with, quote, opt-outs. His next move will be his final move, might be Fenway Park, might be suddenly Wrigleyville because the Cubs are expressing interest. It's not going to be a 2-year deal. It's not going to be a 3-year deal from what we gather. He's looking for the 6-year transaction. The next stop will be his final stop in Major League Baseball. So that storyline bears following because that is very different than what's happening other places. And what's happening other places, a.k.a. Pete Alonso, he's seeking short-term contract. And as of noon today, it looked as if he's gone from the New York Mets and that Bregman is moving to the East Coast. Fascinating to see where this goes. Third team, Milwaukee. Just a bit outside. Cheap seats. I'm in the cheap seats. I thought I'd get to the Hall of Fame as a hitter. You mean they don't call a 200 batting average the Uecker line? Baseball's saying goodbye to one of the great personalities. Bob Uecker has passed away at the age of 90, legendary broadcaster. 200 lifetime batting average with 14 home runs. Bigger post-baseball career than baseball career as a journeyman backup catcher. He passed away after a short fight with lung cancer. Hell of a personality. Not only a great talent, he became a greater broadcaster. He became an icon. That's why there is a statue of him outside that stadium in Milwaukee. Bob Uecker passes away. The stories are unbelievable. I interviewed him a couple of times over the course of my talk show career. Fun guy. And he evolved. He evolved not only as a 200 hitter to become a great broadcaster, not only as a guy that was on Mr. Belvedere on TV for a couple of years, as ornery and awkward as that could be. He evolved into a sales pitch. The Miller Lite commercials in the cheap seats with George Steinbrenner. I mean, just hilarious stuff. Loved every minute of Major League Baseball. And I bet back in Milwaukee, the people nonstop on Sports Talk Radio are telling story after story after story about the legendary Bob Uecker. Fascinating gentleman. Took a back seat to nobody in terms of personality. Cared a great deal. Everybody loved Bob Uecker. He has passed away. Really sad note in Baltimore. We talked about this last week. The sudden passing of Brian Mattis, former University of San Diego All-American pitcher. Passed away in Phoenix, found in his home deceased. Now we find out he died of a drug overdose. And it's a sad commentary that guys who go through major surgeries and have to deal with post-surgical pain get addicted to painkillers. We believe he passed away from an overdose of fentanyl, something had been going on for a couple of years. That's tough. We remember Brian Mattis. I guess the shocker to me is the fact that these guys who have these addictions don't go get help when the professional athlete of today and their medical program coverages is better than the average citizen like you and me sitting at this broadcast table. So we kind of grieve the end story for Brian Mattis. Do you think baseball fan in Northern California will enjoy sitting out for 81 home games for the Athletics in Sacramento? They sold out all 14,000 season tickets in the AAA stadium. The Athletics, not the Sacramento A's, not the Oakland A's, the Athletics are going to play. Could you imagine 81 home games in heat and humidity? Because it is bloody hot in Sacramento in the course of the summer. But baseball fans excited. They sold out all 14,000 seats. So, John, we talked about Sasaki. You can talk about Bregman. You can talk about the cheap seats. And just a bit outside, we'll talk Baltimore A's baseball. Go ahead.
Okay, well, let's talk Bob Uecker. I mean, obviously a great personality, an ambassador of the game in his own fun way. I was introduced to him first by the Miller Lite commercials, and he was like, "Oh, I must be in the front row," and it was just hilarious, And then all of a sudden, I remember he popped up on Mr. Belvedere, and I was like, "What the heck's going on?" When he played, wasn't he like a catcher with the Cardinals, right? And I think is that
Milwaukee
right?
Braves.
The Braves.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I thought that there was a picture of him in a Cardinals team photo holding hands with Bob Gibson.
Anything's possible.
Yeah. So the stories he had is great. His appearance in the movie Major League was fantastic. So, and he made a lot of regular appearances on Johnny Carson.
Oh, yeah.
And those are always terrific.
That's where the Mr. Baseball tag came from, Johnny Carson.
It did?
Yes.
Interesting. So, yeah, we're going to miss him. He's a great, and, he's got a statue out in front of the Milwaukee Stadium, just like, the Colonel Jerry Coleman here at Petco. So It's all good. It's all good. So we tip a hat and salute him. The Alex Bregman is an interesting character because, it's funny. He's from Albuquerque, and my son was at UNM for a while, and they love him in Albuquerque. He can do no wrong. He's Mr. New Mexico. But then with that whole cheating scandal, you typically think of Bregman and Altuve as sort of at the center of it. And so when you think of Bregman, yeah, he's a great talent, no question. you just wonder, what's going on with him? What's his character? And so if he's going to go play on the East Coast, to me, that's fine if it's Boston or the Yankees, but I still just sort of wonder about that guy.
Concur.
And then lastly with the A's in Sacramento, I mean, that's awesome for the people in Sacramento. So they sold out every seat, every game.
Yes.
So you can't even get walk-up tickets to that. Well, that's going to be a kind of a nice little thrill for the Sacramento fans. Have a little baseball. They can prove that they're a legit expansion target in the future. I think that's great. And yeah, the tragedy with the kid that went to USD and on the fentanyl. I mean, that's just a nationwide problem.
One final thought here on Bob Uecker. And again, he gave me a whole bunch of really cool clip things that I remember just off the top of my head. The other one was his Hall of Fame speech, because he went into the Baseball Hall of Fame. He stood there. He gave a 20-minute monologue full of jokes, cracking on everybody.
Perfect.
Had the people in Cooperstown going crazy. And his closing comment, he paused. He looked around. He said, and he pointed himself and he said, "Baseball, Hall of Fame. Not bad for a 200 hitter, eh?" Cool.
Well, but he's in the broadcaster's wing,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, but that's still, he's in Cooperstown. That's all that matters.
And a sidebar comment to that comment was, "Gee, I thought I'd get inducted because I hit 200.
That's a lot.
Oh, what a cool guy. So we remember fondly with smiles on our face, Bob Uecker.